And we've never done a beef stock before, so we definitely thought we would show you. Now, it's very simple. Obviously, start off with your beef bones. So go to your butcher. Like I say, give them an extra smile, get on the good side. Most of the time, if you ask, do you have any beef bones, do you have any veal bones, sometimes they'll just give them to you. They'll just give you a bag, whatever they have in the freezer, which is a score. Otherwise, they're really cheap. You can get like 3-4 pounds for like $4, $3. It's not an expensive item. And they'll usually, if they're big, just tell them to cut them up into manageable sizes. You want the marrow exposed, so that's kind of the center of the bone. And then we're going to put it into a roasting pan like this. Add some carrots, some celery, some onion into the oven and just roast it. So high heat, 400 for about 30 minutes, 40 minutes. Just until you have some nice browning, some really nice color, a lot of flavor. At this point, everything goes into your largest soup pot. Borrow one from the neighbor if you don't have. We can barter, give them some stock after or something. So the bones go in. Now, the main reason why we roast everything off first is because classically that's how we're trained to do it, is you roast everything first. But what it's doing is the flavor. You're really getting some really nice flavor out of there. You're starting to melt the marrow as well, and it just gives you a much better stock in the end. And they usually refer to this, if it's not beef stock, sometimes they'll call it like a brown stock, just for the rich color that it has at the end. So we're going to add everything. So we have our carrots, onion, celery, bones.
So think about this compared to the broth that you would buy in a package in the store. If you look at the ingredients of it, it's mostly water, they add salt, and some flavoring agents. There might be some powdered onion and some beef flavor. So you're not really benefiting from, getting some of the anti-inflammatory benefits that we talked about, as well as, a little bit of protein and amino acids that will be in this broth.
So that goes in to our pot, some peppercorns. So 8 or 10 peppercorns. If you have any parsley on hand, save the stems. The stems are fantastic, full of flavor. That's going to go in. You can bundle them up if you want. Doesn't really matter because you're going to strain all this at the end. You have some bay leaf, some garlic, and if you want to give it a pinch of salt. You can also season it at the end. But again, you're in control of the seasoning here, which is the most important thing. That's going to get covered with water. And then you set that to a simmer, a gentle simmer. So small bubbles. You don't want this splashing back at you. Small bubbles, low heat for about 6-7 hours. So it does take a little bit of a longer time. But again, it's something that, if you're going to be around the house, put it on. You don't have to do anything.
Do it on laundry day.
Yeah.
Or get a crock pot.
So you can definitely, slow cooker.
Slow cooker
Absolutely.
is your friend for things like this.
You just want to make sure that the water is about 2 to 3 inches above the bones and your ingredients.
So what would happen if we didn't cover our ingredients? We wouldn't get all the nutrition out of them.
Yeah, you're going to end up with a lot less liquid. You're already putting a little bit of work into it. You want to make sure you get as much stock of it as possible. So 2-3 inches above the ingredients, the bones, and make sure that it's less than 1 inch to 2 inches above the rim. Otherwise, you're spilling over. I remember working in some kitchens where they would go up to 1 centimeter, and you'd clean it up after. Make quite the mess. So that's it. That's going to go into a slow simmer, 6 hours. For something small like this, I'd probably go closer to the 6-hour mark. I had a big pot when I made it yesterday in here. Closer to the 7-8 hour mark for sure. And you strain it at the end, let it cool, strain it through a sieve. If you have some cheesecloth, just make sure you get all the bones out. And what you're left with, you can chill it. What you're left with is this incredible beef stock, which can be used, soups, stews, risotto, many things. You can freeze this as well. Don't not in the glass, put it in like even the ice cube trays work really, really well. Muffin tins work really well in
Not
the
the
freezer.
tin ones, but the silicone ones.
Yeah,
right?
they have those. Yeah, you won't. Yeah, it'll be harder to get out.
Have a metallic taste
Yeah.
if you put them in the metallic
Uh,
muffin tins.
And you can tell how much you've cooked it down. So when it's cooled, I've already removed the fat, but the fat will race to the top, which is fantastic because it's very easy to remove at that point. And it'll have almost like this gelatinous jelly feel to it. If
Ooh,
you
gelatin.
The longer you cook it down, it'll get even jellier. Yeah, we're using that.
Is that desirable?
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
then you can just add water when you're using it. right?
Absolutely, it's just concentrated. So from this point, if I wanted to make what's called a demi-glaze, which is a very concentrated, flavorful stock, I would cook this more, reduce this by half, and you get a really nice, thick, rich sauce, which is great for gravies and more complex flavors. But this is all we want for today. So beef stock. We're gonna make with this beef stock.
A classic French dish.
Yes. It's, I don't know if it's classic, but it's probably French. Brisket. Yes, we're using brisket today. So this is, I don't know if it's French.
I thought we were making beef bourguignon.
No.
Oops, we're making a brisket.
You can make beef bourguignon, but it's usually not the bourguignon without a bottle of Burgundy wine. It's hard to replace that.
Yes, alcohol is not good for your digestive system. That's been established. You want to stay away from that if your stomach's upset, of course.
So we're gonna change it up. And this is a delicious cut of meat. It's called brisket. If you've never used it before, it comes from the chest of the cow. So it's a muscle that's worked quite a bit. That means it's a little tougher. So usually when they cook brisket, it is very slow and low heat. Smokers, it's used a lot in barbecue. So smokers, which are like less than 300 degrees Fahrenheit, so very low heat. We're also going to do a very low heat preparation here. So it's pretty lean. The fat usually comes on the top. It's a fat cap. When you go to your butchers, you can ask them for what end you want. So if you go closer to the flat, it's called the flat end. That is the leaner part. It's meatier, so it looks like this, pretty much very little fat on top. And then you can go towards the point end. So it's going to be a lot thicker and a lot more fat. But again, it's usually on the cap, so it's on the top. So you can trim it up to whatever fat you like. Try to make it as lean as possible. And we're going to add just a simple marinade here. Dijon mustard. You can use regular yellow mustard if you want.
If you don't want some of the spice, okay?
So mustard, give it a really nice rub. Adds really a lot of flavor. It also adds a nice little sticky component for the rest of your spices to stick to. And we're going to keep it pretty simple, pretty mild in terms of spice, in terms of heat, but big on flavor. This is garam masala. Has everyone used garam masala before? Beautiful Indian, South Asian blend of different spices. So it usually has cumin, it has coriander, bay, sometimes fennel, cinnamon. It has, for me, it reminds me of Christmas. It has a lot of those Christmassy sorts of spices. I know I don't want to remind anyone, it might freak people out that it's upon us, but but it does have a really, really nice flavor to it that's not spicy, but it definitely has some character to it. So we're going to put a little bit on top. So this, you can even put this in the fridge overnight to marinate, or you can use it right away. It's up to you. If you're going to use it right away, at that point is when you want to season it. If you're going to let it marinate overnight, don't add the salt. Usually add it right before. It's just going to draw some liquid, some moisture, and it's already pretty tough as it is. So
If you want to dry it out, that's a good
yeah,
thing
you
to
definitely
do.
don't want to do that. And so we're going to put it into our pot. This is the first thing we're going to add, just to get a little bit of a sear on it. So I've got medium-high heat. Again, you want to hear it. It should be talking to you.
Not screaming at you, or
Yeah.
it's too hot and it's going to burn. But you want to hear that sizzle
Yeah,
happening.
you don't want to burn it, and just a couple minutes per side. You might see some color. That is probably the spices and the Dijon mustard that gets a little caramelized. So it's probably not the meat that's burning or that's burnt. It's just some color on the spices. So 2 minutes per side, and then we have the rest of our ingredients. Pretty simple. We're focusing on mushrooms. I love mushrooms. So we have some cremini mushrooms here.
And they're a lower fiber vegetable, so you don't have to worry as much about that. There's no skins to be removed.
We have some onions, some carrot, and garlic.
So again, the onion, if it is troublesome for you, you don't have to add it. You can do the recipe without.
So the mushrooms, about 3 cups. Mushrooms cook down to almost nothing. So that's why, try to add, if you like mushrooms in it, try to add a little bit more, otherwise you'll be searching in the pot. So I have a little bit of color. That's pretty much what I'm looking for. You can get a little bit more. And again, 2-3 minutes per side. I'm gonna take this out just a little early, just so we're not here for forever. But that's pretty much what you're looking for. And again, just a little bit of a sear on the outside, develop the flavor a little bit. And then you'll still have some residual oil from that 1 tablespoon in the pot. We're gonna add the rest of our ingredients. So onions in, carrots.
You can do the same thing with garlic. If you find garlic, upsets your digestion as well, just getting a garlic powder can help with adding some of that flavor without getting more of the acidic components.
Absolutely. And this can be done in the slow cooker as well. So you can sear the meat in a pan and then just throw everything into a slow cooker, liquid, done. Very, very simple. So onions, carrot, garlic go in, mushrooms in. Pretty simple. And just cook them for a couple minutes just to get a little bit of color. Now you might have some dark bits on the bottom of the pan. That's good stuff. That's flavor, but it's going to stay there unless you add a little bit of liquid to lift it off, which we're going to do in a second. So 2 lovely flavors, balsamic vinegar. This is again optional. But it's going to add a nice little bit of acidity to it and some nice flavor. So a few tablespoons. And this is one thing that I suggest you keep in the house. Tomato paste, not toothpaste. Yes, don't add toothpaste to your food, please. Tomato paste. And they come in these really nice convenient tubes now.
Cool.
They're about $1.50. And most grocery stores, every grocery store should have tomato paste. So it comes like this. It's $1.50, and I keep it in the fridge. And anytime I'm making stocks, anytime I'm making soups, that's it. You add a little bit. The can, they used to have it for the longest time in the can. That is such a pain to deal with.
I have little Ziploc bags of frozen tomato paste all over my freezer. I keep finding them. Yeah. So I'm going to start buying this too.
So this is concentrated tomato, a lot of nice flavor in that. So that's going to go in, throw balsamic vinegar, give it a quick stir. The brisket goes back in, and it's going in whole. You can do this with stewing beef, like chuck, anything like that as well, which should be cubed. It'll work the same way. What I like about the brisket, you'll see it in a second, is it shreds apart really nicely. It's beautiful. Any herbs that you want, bundle them up ahead of time, easier to locate after. So thyme, bay, that goes in, and then our beef stock. So I put on there about 3 cups. Again, you want it kind of like the same with the stock. So you want it to be about 2 inches, 3 inches above. So here I can see I might need a little bit of water. A little bit more. It's all right. Just
Everybody's
until it's
definition
covered.
of a little bit is a little bit different.
And I mean,
There you
it takes a little bit of work at the beginning. It's not a crazy amount, and it's not difficult by any means. But once everything is in the pot, bring it up to a simmer. I'm going to put the lid on top, low heat, very low. If I had this anywhere close to medium, what would happen? It would boil over, and that brisket would turn into a hockey puck. You don't want to be, that's not going to be enjoyable at all. So very low heat. I have it on this setting. I had this going on like 2, so very, very low setting. And again, I'm going to bring up that word again, inactive cooking. You're going to let it go for about 3.5 hours, okay? So the lid was on the entire time.
You can see it gentle
I'll try to
bubble.
angle it. It's not the greatest, but
Yeah, you can see it.
you can kind of see it there. Really, really nice color, really nice and rich. And I'll show you. I'll try to lift this the best I can. So this was the, oh man.
It's falling apart as
This
you lift
was
it. That means it's tender.
super, like super, super, super. So this was it. And I can't even lift it. It's shredding like really, really easily. Whoa! Don't do that at home.
It's gonna fall apart in your
But
mouth.
it's yeah, super, super, super tender. And so right before serving, you can just shred it up. And this is a delicious, delicious soup. And it serves quite a few people. So for that little piece of brisket, you can definitely get 10, 12 servings.
It's a good comforting winter meal
Oh, yeah.
for those snowy days as well.
So the mushrooms. And that's, I mean, again, all the work is in the beginning. The rest of the time, you can just show off. So to put the soup in there. Take a little bit of that brisket right at the end, right on top. And that's it. That's how I serve it up.
Our
Very
comforting brisket.